Good evening, everybody. I see people are slowly joining in. Everybody here, can you say drop something in the chat so that I know you're here? Okay. How are you guys doing? How was your day? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, as I was saying, we are hustling, bro. That's nice. That's good to hear. Yeah, I was saying that we will begin momentarily. Today we have Dart fundamentals planned for you. It's a very informative session, and I promise that you'll get a lot. You'll There's a lot to learn. Hi, really excited for the session. Same. We're also eagerly looking forward to this session. Um, we'll just begin in a moment. Don't worry about it. Please try to use a little Hindi. Mahir, the thing is, like, we at GDSC follow like a lang for a medium of conversation we prefer English, but ठीक है, I think a little bit of Hindi can be done occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any prerequisite for the session? I think if you attended yesterday's session, like, this is a very beginner friendly Flutter festival. So yesterday we did the info session. That, oh, can you not hear it? Can you not hear me? Am I audible? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so if you were present yesterday, then I think you know by now that it's a very beginner friendly session. So it's okay. You don't need to have any prerequisites. We'll be starting from the scratch. So it's completely fine. You don't have to worry if uh, about your experience or anything as such. Also, where are you guys joining from? Quickly drop in the places of where you guys are from. I would love to know. Jaipur. Wow. Kolkata, Jalandhar, Lucknow, Assam. Oh my God. We literally have people from all over the country, as you can see. Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, Himachal. Oh my God, that's amazing. BH1. Bhutan. Oh wow. That's great. That's amazing, guys. It's so happy to see you joining us from literally all over the country. फिलहाल हॉस्टल से. Nice. Yes, today's session we will watch a few videos and then we'll do the code of conduct and then we'll begin with the session.
Attention,
The
all
video.
passengers. Special announcement. New destinations have been announced. Please be advised and plan accordingly. All aboard.
So that was a little video we had of the Flutterbird dash. I hope the animation, like, you guys liked it. We'll begin momentarily. We'll start with the code of conduct as usual. Like, that's the every session we follow the same rule. We'll start with code of conduct and then we'll begin with the session in just a minute. Okay, I think we have the code of conduct. So I call up Arnab to present to you the code of conduct. Arnab, if you're there in the chat, over to you. I think you have the poems, Arnab. Just see on your screen if you can like turn on your video and microphone. Yeah, your video, we can see you. Just make sure you're unmuted. Is there no mute button? Like there should be a mic icon. Yeah, just try to click on it and check once. I'll just refresh. Yes. Okay, guys. While Arnav is still joining us, I just wanted to have a quick head count. How many of you were there yesterday as well? Oh wow, we have a lot of people. Oh, we have first timers as well. That's nice. How was yesterday's session? How did you like yesterday's session? For those of you who missed, I just want to mention that you don't need to worry because we will present you all the recordings. At the end, we'll upload it on the GDSC LPU YouTube channel. So you don't need to worry if in case even in case you missed it, we'll provide you with the recordings. It was nice. It was
Yeah.
good.
Hello. Am I
Hi.
audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. I just didn't had the permission. So carry on with the code of conduct. So the first is like to just be nice, respectful, and constructive while interacting on this virtual live chat. So there was okay. Do not post anything if any adult content, rude or offensive statement. Please don't do any of that. It won't be tolerated. And you're not allowed. You won't be allowed to post anything or advertise. Do not spam. Don't try to post same thing again and again just you can get the chance to get heard out. No, that won't be tolerated. And harassment of any kind is not tolerated in this event. And if you fail to do any of these, you will be blocked from interacting on the chat. So yeah, that's just few do's and don'ts, the code of conduct you have to keep in mind. Just that. Other than that, you can just enjoy. Then now I'll pass on to Sharanya Didi. Yeah.
So, hi guys, am I audible and visible? Just to check. Okay, cool. So, today we'll be getting started with the Flutter development, the real Flutter. Like, you'll be writing codes today. And don't worry if you have not installed Android Studio, if you have not installed Flutter yet, it's still fine because today you won't be requiring any of those. Today we'll be just looking at the Dart language from the core. And so for that, you don't need an IDE install. We have something called Dartpad. I'll share the link soon. So that's where you'll be writing codes today. And moving on, just a quick question: how many of you are familiar with any object-oriented languages? Let's put on the chat: C++, Java, C++, Java, Java, C++. Yes, very good. And Dart is very similar to these languages. And for Flutter development, we are actually going to use Dart. Dart is also based on C++ only, so you won't find it much difficulty. It's just today's solution kind of thing, and telling you how things are done in Dart. Today it will be full session on Dart. Moving on, can we go to the next slide? Okay, this is about the Flutter festivals, and it's a community-led event series where developers can join, learn fundamentals of Google technologies, and here we are covering Flutter Firebase and Google Cloud content. I guess this was covered yesterday. And Flutter is designed for future for ambient computing world. That's what we do in Flutter. This is by Tim Snaith, product director, Flutter and Dart. Okay, so what is Dart? Dart is an object-oriented programming language. It is very similar to C and C++. So what does object-oriented mean? Object-oriented means uh, we are going to create classes and create instances of those classes and use them across the program so that uh, all the features like encapsulation, there is abstraction, all these can be achieved. And this language is very similar to C, C++, Java. So you won't find anything difficult when learning this. It is statically typed language. That is, the type of variable is known at the compile time. So just a quick question. Is C or C++ a statically typed language with this definition? Yes, it is. And any language that you know which is not statically typed? Python, yes. So Start is basically a statically typed language, and it can also run on multiple environments ranging from mobile to web to desktop, everything. So for mobile rendering, it uses C++ engine, and for web running, it renders over JavaScript. This part actually was covered yesterday. We discussed this whole thing in detail, and it is productive and fast. It uses JIIT compiler. JIIT basically means just in time compiler. That means everything you do and immediately the changes are visible. There won't be any lag. And also you can transport the code just like Java, that you can create a package, a module, and run it over any virtual machine. And also hot reload can be achieved because it uses this type of compiler. So Dart is a super efficient language, and that is why we use it in developing application, cross-platform application rather. Moving ahead, so let's, I think now get started with writing hello world. I guess I can start sharing my screen now. I'm putting the link on the chat. You guys can open it so that the session can turn into hands-on. Suraj, if possible. Yeah, I got it. Just a second, guys. I'm just making sure so that your chats are also visible in here using extended screens. So when you guys just open the tab, ping in here. If you're done already. Done. Just wait for 2 more minutes so that everyone does open. So today's session is going to be completely hands-on session. So you are all going to enjoy it a lot. So yeah, have done now. So let's get started. Let's first write the Hello World program, the standard for learning any programming language. So everyone knows what a main function does. For running Dart, we don't need to import any library. Yeah, we are doing it on dartpad.dev. This is official for testing your applications. This is done by Google team itself, and they use it for mainly testing purposes. If you want to create a new Dart pad, you can click on new pad, click on Dart here. Don't click on HTML. That's nothing for right now. Click on create. you'll get a brand new code on that. So, and for running that, we don't need to import any sort of header files or any libraries, packages, or anything, as this is a like we have already in the compiler, so there's nothing to import. We can directly start with the main function. Let's remove the code, all the code, in fact. Let's first start with writing our hello world program. What a program in any programming languages does a program run on? What is the main function? What I actually spelled out the answer. What I was wanted to ask was, what is the driver code? Yes, it's the main function. And main function, it's yes, it's the entry point, and main function should not have any return type as of here. So we are going to start with the void keyword, the same key as any other language. We go with void main, open and close braces, followed by curly brackets. Your main function is written. Without main function, your code won't run. For writing, for printing out any statement, we use the print command. And you can type semicolons are necessary for ending lines in Dart as well, very similar to C++, without which you'll get errors. So now if you click on run, you can see the output on the console, which is on the right side. Just clicked on run. Yes, you got your output, hello world. So now that you're done with your hello world program of Dart, there is no header file necessary for running Dart files. When it comes to Flutter, we actually import libraries. Those are mainly APIs for the design purposes, about which we'll completely talk when we are actually going to work on Flutter. Today, let's focus on Dart. There is no header files necessary when running on Dartpad. Okay, no worries. So we just started off now. And there is a tab like called documentation here. This is basically if you just click on any part of the program, it's going to tell what this particular line does. For example, if I click on print, it says prints a string representation of object on the console. As I said, Dart is also an object-oriented language, so anything that prints out is objects, and all these are console-based programs what you're running, so you get the output on console. That's what it means. If you click on here, this is basically a string that you just defined, so you are not going to get any documentation here or the reference. If you click on main, you're going to get the function void main, which runs the which is a starter first, which will start the driver for the code. Now moving ahead, yes, it is very similar to Java, and it's also similar to C++. And it's very easy to understand. Now that we just told the hello world, let's get started with understanding data types. Can you guys just put in chat, what does data types mean? What exactly is data flight? Int, float, type of data, enter, string, etc. Define variables type. Okay, what does a variable mean, first of all? Type defines type of literals. It helps to store variables of type data. Container for a data. Yes, variables are placeholder. Yes, that actually gives a perfect definition. Is a placeholder or a reference used to store a value. So let's get started with using variables. I also got a few references for data types which said int, string, etc. Let's get started. Defining an integer in Dart is actually the same as declaring it on C++ or so. To write an int, so I'm starting off here. You get int a, that's a variable, data type variable, and I'm assigning it a value of say 10. As you can see, there are some errors when the sidebar here is showing info that shows the local variable a isn't used. We just declared it, we didn't use, so it is giving us a notification. And errors are being shown immediately. So by this is how we can easily debug on Dartpad. So this is relatively easy when, especially if you're a beginner and you don't know where the error is, and even before running, you can find out where the error is. So if I just type in 10 here and put a semicolon, all the errors just goes off, except for the info that says, it's like if you have used any IDs like VS Code or something, you would have got things like is okay, we have a reference to an unused variable, you can delete it or something like that. Now if I just print out this A, I can use the print command. Yeah, they are like warnings. And I'm just going to put A. Now you're going to get the value printed on your console. I'm running the program here. And yes, you got, okay, I didn't remove this line. Just comment this out. Commenting is the double slash, like any other programming language. So yeah, you got the value that you just set up. Why is it on second line? What exactly are you like? Which part are you saying is on second line? Okay, well, nothing. I just made it so that it can be clearly visible for you guys. That's it. You can put it on next line. That's not a problem at all. And semicolons are necessary. So in that you can change the value like any other language. It's same goes. If you want to manipulate value, you can change it to suppose say 22, put a semicolon and again print to see what it is. You're going to get the changed value here. We are using two print statements, so this is how it happens. These parts shall remain same for any data type you use in Dart. Moving ahead, this in Dart we actually have 4 types of data type. That is integer, there is double. That's what I'm going to talk next. Instead of float, we don't actually normally use float. We can use float with type preference of using F, but people, because there's no need, rather Dart nobody uses for programming. I mean, not most people use it for programming as such, so you can use double data type in here. Declare a double, call it sample double, so that I'm going to give it a value, say anything, 19.22. I put a semicolon. And this is how a double is being declared. The same thing goes with string. Remember, for using string, we have to use capital S. This is a case sensitive language, and so remember that while declaring a string, you should have capital S used. And you don't even have to initialize the variables as while declaring. You can use it, declare it later, but it actually gives an info saying if you actually try to print this or use this, it will, as Dart has null safety with it, it will give you an error. I'll show you this in another example code later on. And somebody asked me before that can we use single quotes or double quotes? Yes, you can use single quotes or double quotes. That's totally up to you. Both are permitted. For example, here that time I had used single quotes in here. Now I'm going to use double quotes and say hello. If I click on run, you're going to get the out. Okay, I didn't put the print statement. Sorry for that. We have one question here. How to add some text alongside defining integer? I didn't get your question, Arunab. If you could please explain this out, it would be better. And okay, yeah, I'll explain that. You can actually do that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to tell you next. That's called string interpolation. And don't worry about these big names. It just means nothing. It's just a name. That's all. The terminology. It's very easy to understand. I'm going to show you how we are going to print and let's print a along with this string, suppose. So for that, we have a special symbol dollar that is used. So we can go with the print statement itself. You need to put it and close it in a quotes, like single or double. That's totally up to you. You can use a single quote or double quote, and you can put on the value whatever you want to put. As you said, let's take the same example as put in the chat. I'm just going to copy out from here. Okay, so now we got the text hello world from the string, and now we want to add the term that was there in a. So for that we are going to use the symbol dollar, and we are going to put the a. If when this symbol dollar is used, the value, if there is a variable that's declared with that, then the following character, that value gets printed. Now if you click on run, I'm just commenting out all the other statements so that it will be easy for you to see on the output. Now you're going to get hello world and 10. So this is how this string interpolation happens. The same thing you can add on any number of characters that you want, but if you put a space in between, then this probably will not work. And the string interpolation is not just for putting out any like any variables of particular type. Like if you have used two strings and now you have this sample string as well here. If you want to find the length of this sample string, you can put it like, we just make this a nice statement. Let's put it as, okay, I'll give you all a welcome message. Welcome to Flutter Festival. I'm just changing the value. And here I just want to put, let's try find out the length of the string directly in the print statement itself with the use of dollar symbol. Length of the sample string is, you can use the dollar operator followed by the curly braces, and then you can type the variable name out here followed by dot and length. So if you want to find the length, so the length of the sample string goes out to be, the length of this string is 28. The length of this string, this is how we just calculated out in a single line with the use of the special dollar symbol. We have some few questions out in the chat box. I have out like print statement end with line break. What if you want on the same line? Like while normally coding, like you can just type it along with without closing the second inverted comma. You can get down through it. Yes, we need to declare the data types inside the quotes with a dollar symbol. And why is output printed in different line for each print used? That is because each of the print statements terminates after a semicolon is found. So if a semicolon is found, then it moves on to the next line, saying that that particular line has been executed completely. And that's how it happens. Yes, it's more or less like Kotlin. Yeah, you can tell kind of like Kotlin, but Kotlin has a lot more features than we speak of Dart. So yeah, even the Dart code gets converted to Kotlin a lot of in the backend side, like background, which we don't see at all while developing apps. When these apps run on native devices, option to choose language Java or Kotlin where we want to get our code converted. This is how we can make this transportable to other applications that are coded in native languages. The exact use of the curly braces. Yeah, the curly braces are used when we want to use any function of this particular variable shows. So if you want to find the length of a string or things you must have heard in C++ STL libraries also there is something like length function. This is not there in Dart. So for that we are using this dot function, dot operator. And within the print statement, if we take this curly brace off, it is going to think the other part is a string. It will only print the sample string dot length as it is. It won't consider without the curly braces, it won't consider the function that's after this dot. It won't even consider the dot. It will only consider the variable name that's followed by the dollar symbol. So this is what you get if you put without the curly brace. You will get the welcome to Flutter Festivals dot length, because this is the value of what's there in the variable, and dot length is taken as it is. So instead, to avoid that, we have to use curly braces till the point. Okay. Is just like percentage D or percentages that we use in C, sort of, but this is mainly used for referencing a particular variable that's already been declared. If you put something beyond this dollar symbol that's not been declared, like right now I've commented out the double part, right? If I just write any other name, I'll just take this length function off, and if I put any other thing that's not been declared, you're going to get an error. It will say this ABC is not defined. As for string interpolation, that is, you can infuse numerical data types into string without losing their identity. Okay, yeah. How do we add two strings? Concatenation, yes, it happens to plus. These all things we can probably explore when we are actually writing things in the app. I think we can proceed with the further part that we wanted to cover today. Running out of time as well. We'll run out of time or else. So that was all about basic introduction to data type. Yeah, I just missed out one thing. There's also one more data type, bool, that is used for returning true or false value. Like you get bool A, B, C, and you give it a value true. And if you you want to compare something, then you can get it from here. So, I guess my voice was echoing, or was it fine? Somebody is unmuted today. Yeah, now fine. If we print this, you're going to get the bool variable only takes up true or false in its like the value of only true or false can be taken up by the bool part. Put ABC in here, you're going to get true value printed out on your console. Okay, the dollar symbol is used for string interpolation. That is basically using the value of other declared variables in while printing or any other data manipulation where you do not want to break the sequence. Like if you want, you are declared and I just put it A here. You're going to get the value of A within the string, and you just multiple data types can be combined into a single string output while printing in a console. So this is a console or any other part while manipulating the data can happen through the dollar symbol. Moving ahead, let's if you guys want to keep the dart pad, what the code you have done, you can save it, you can copy it and put it in your local machine. There is no option to download the dart pad code as of now, as far as I know. You can copy the code, store it in a notepad, and let me know, because once you open another dart pad, this code will be lost, so that you can store those for reference. And we also have these codes in our repository that we provided the end of session in for your references. Once you guys are done with this, you can let me know in the chat after you have saved the code that you have written. If you moving ahead, don't worry, you don't have to put the things in the chat. We'll be giving you the code, probably commented once. And moving to the new pad, like you can create a new pad. You can click on create, and now we are going to talk about something called something when the type of data is not known at the time of initialization. So at the time of initialization, if you don't know the type of data, we are going to use the keyword var. Then var is they used to declare variables when the type of data is not known at the start. But once you initialize that particular variable that's declared out here, you cannot change the data type. That because that is statically typed, and you declare this ABC to be an integer, and in next line you're reinitializing it to be a string, or a double. This will give you an error. Okay, I'll just put this as a string. Then you'll get an error because okay, this should actually give you once these variables get used. Then okay, yeah, click on probably should not change technically because the value is not changed. And same thing goes with there's a keyword final. If we use the you have a var a, there is const, and const is for a different purpose totally. And when it comes to things like just putting out a sample code out here, you have a variable, you declared a variable as a and you initialized it to be a 10, and you got another integer b and you made a sum out of it. Now if you reinitialize a, you're going to get errors. Okay, probably it's working because it's getting converted to string, and double are because it's turned into a dynamic variable. This is something new that's happened probably recently. That's why I was unaware of it. So the keyword final is used when the type of once initialized, its value should not change. So if we put out this line where we are reinitializing the value of sum, then you are going to get the error because it says the final variable can only be set once. Okay, I can put the code in the chat if you need it. Down this main function. So this was all about using of var and final. There is something called dynamic, and it should be avoided because that when you're writing an app, if you use the dynamic data type and the type of data keeps changing, you had a dynamic a, suppose, and you initialize it to be a 10, then you initialize it to be a string. Instead of having a, you write something like height. Height should always be an integer or double, but not a string. But here it's going to listen because you have initialized it to be a dynamic data type, right? So this should technically be avoided, as here also it is saying that a is defined and you should get an error. Okay, skip 20. Now if you run your output. These errors are because you initialize the height to be first an integer and then a string, then probably the code is not going to listen. The reason being you have initialized it to be a dynamic data type, and this should be avoided normally. So yeah, that's all for dynamic where you'll be using a lot of wheres, especially when you're coding into applications, because at times you won't be sure on what will be the data type and you just declare it somewhere in the middle of the app. You can later take it up and pull it out forward for like a better coding practice. So you should avoid use of dynamic, but you can surely use where as long as you're okay with it. Moving on, let's now understand functions. So what does a function mean to you all? Just put up your views in the chat box, everybody. I mean, all those who are listening. What do you think is a function? Set of instruction, it takes some inputs, provides some output. But what exactly is a function? Breaks down complex programs into smaller ones or repetitive steps. Yes, it's a way to reuse code without repetition. Method that groups several lines to prevent monolithic style of coding. These are like definition, block of organized code that's used to perform a task. Yes, it is. All your answers are right, and it's basically a block of code that can be called anywhere in the program, as that you can achieve which hook concepts. Encapsulation is achieved. We have abstraction achieved through using of functions, and what the main itself is a function that takes no return type. As you can see, there is no return statement here, and there should not be any return statement when the type void is being used. So let's start with the simple programs for understanding functions. Let's declare two integers, a and b, and let's also declare something like sum to calculate the sum of these. Let's also give them some values. I'll give it 10 and 20 maybe. Yeah. And let's keep sum as a variable that will calculate the sum of this. And let's try different types of functions. First, a function with no arguments and no return type. A function with no arguments and no return type, what does it do? Okay, one example is the main function itself. It's a function with no arguments, no return type. So any function that does stays in that particular part. So let's first start with function with no return type. Let's call it a function as sum1. No arguments is nothing in the first curly brace, and no return type means the type is void. And you're putting out a print statement that says, okay, I have no return type, just for understanding. And you're going to print the, well, it doesn't have any arguments, so you're not passing anything, so it won't perform any function when it's being called in here. So to call a function, you go to the main function, type the name of the function that you just created, put a braces around it and a semicolon in the end. So this function is now being called at line number 3 in our program. If you click on run, yes, the code runs and it does have a print statement here, but it's not returning anything to the main program and it does not take anything from the main program. It's just a block of code that stays here. If you put any operation here, if you put any local variables here, if you type any other integer, int, anything you can put b equal to 35, 34, 35, and if you put print here, it's going to listen to the instructions present here, but it's not passing anything to the main function. The main function just calls this, and yeah, it says 35 because I just printed out, and it says I have no arguments and I take nothing in return. So that's about function with no return type. Now let's move ahead with function that has a return type. The name of each function should be unique, or else you'll get problem in your code that will say a function with same name but a different body is not counted in that. You can declare global variables outside anywhere. Okay, just click here. int a, put a semicolon. Yeah, it's declared as global. Okay, the same where, so that's why you'll get the error. And yeah, here there is an error because it says we do have a return type here, but no arguments that's being passed. So you have to return an integer value because you're putting the return function to be an integer. I mean return type to be an integer. So I can return any integer, and I'm just returning 0 for convenience. That's all. And yeah, I'm just putting this print statement for reference. No arguments with me, but I still have a return type, so returning 0. And if, okay, running this is not giving me any output this particular line because we have not called this function in our main. So if we call this function in our main, it did return a value, right? But it did return a 0, but this 0 won't be visible. Why is it not visible? Because you returned an integer and you just called a function. You're not printing out this integer. So if I put the sum that we declared in beginning and equate it assign it to the value of what is returned from this function, you're going to get the 0 also. And you need to print the sum as well anyway. Now you will get I'll just put it like, so now you got the 0 that you just returned printed out. So this is how we can call function. The same thing goes with other types of function declaration, that is function with arguments but no return type. Just showing you an example. Have no return type, that is return type is void, and you're having the arguments but two arguments, that's int n1 and n2. You can put any names for, as far as this is concerned, you can put it as a and b itself. And if you return a plus b, that will also be an integer anyway. I mean, we are printing out a plus b, but you're not returning anything because the return type is void. So for this to happen, you can call the sum3 function in our main and you can execute this particular part of the code. This is giving error because we do have arguments present in the function, so we'll have to give out two integer values for it to function. And these functions, to have this, you don't really have to put in as variables. You can just pass out normal integers as well. Like if you put 40 and 50, you're going to get 90 in return, though they are not variables. You're just statically typing numbers out here. That shall also give you the answer. So this is how this particular type of function works. And next we have function with arguments and return type, the very common type of function that we all use, that is function with arguments and return type. Yes, it returns an integer. It takes two arguments with it, and it's returning an integer value because its return type is int. And to print out, you need to call this first. For all the functions that for which the print, there is a return statement. If you want to see what just got returned, you have to print it. So I'm just going to first call this function, pass the values to it, and you're printing out the value. Then you're going to get the answer, the correct answer that's from the last function that you just got. And all these are very common in C, C++, what you have all seen in Java. There is something new in that probably people who know JavaScript might be familiar with this. that is arrow function. So arrow functions are basically used for functions that can be used declared in a single line. So for example, I have an int and I call it sum5, and yeah, like lambda function, and the syntax remains the same as any other language, and you just have to return the type, whatever type you have put in here, that value should be returned followed by a semicolon. The semicolon after this is very necessary, which is not there in any other function declaration end, but this is necessary in this case as there's no return statement out here. You can yeah, if you have put out a string in here, you can return a string here. Can The only constraint being what you put after the arrow function should be of the same type as the data type. If you don't know the return type, you have to give it a type of var. No, functions do not like normally work with var, but that's not preferred. Like it's not the standard on how the function should work. So you guys can take off the code, or we'll provide the code at the end if you want. You can just move on. The next part that is we're going to cover is classes. Read the lambda part. Yes, these type of functions are used for one line declaration of functions, and you need to if there is a return type, you need to return a value of that particular type. That is, if you have put on string, you should return a string. You don't have to put any kind of braces. Nothing is necessary, but a semicolon at the end is necessary. And this is function name, this is the declaration syntax, and just in a single line you can have the how to use. Yeah, to call this you can just call it in here. If you put print sum5, okay, this is not sum5 though, but yeah, just if I put the function out here, if I say print, it's going to print out the value that it just returned. It's returning 0, so it's going to return 0. Is there any concept of anonymous functions in Dart? I'm not sure of this part as of in Dart. Anonymous functions. Well, there is a point in which we can abstract the like the functions, but it's not treated as anonymous functions in Dart. I'm not sure on how that will work. You will get the code through a GitHub link properly formatted, so don't worry about that at the end of today's session, like right now in the session itself. Like with var name, we can give function. Well, because there is this null. Yes, we can. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Aryan just said yes, so it's probably yeah. Nested statements and condition statements. Yeah, it's same syntax as it goes with C, C++. It's the same way. Like if you want to have, if the syntax is same as any other languages, so I'm not covering those parts. Nested statements and those parts. Moving on, we have classes in Dart. As I said, it's an object-oriented language, so classes are the most important part when it comes to object-oriented programming. And classes in Flutter are very similar to the ones we have seen in especially C++ and more like Java. So it's like combined version of the same. So for taking on classes, if you have to create a class, you should use a keyword class. Name of the class, I'm saying it's a person class, followed by, this is not needed while creating classes. This is for function declaration. And yeah, you had a class with the keyword class. This is the name of the class, followed by curly braces. After which, to declare, you can give out the parameters, I'm giving a person has a name, a person has an age. You're getting the red line under this. The reason is this are non-nullable instance field. So it has to be initialized. Why does this happen? Because that has null safety in it. So variables, there are public private in that, and you'll cover more of these class parts in when you're actually making in Flutter, because we are not actually only going to see Dart while making apps. Yes, we do have public and private though, but we won't be covering it all today to time constraints, as we had only 1 hour for the session today. So to this is creation of class, and to create an instance of the class we are going to use let's create a variable of the type final, and let's call the person's class as T, and you make an object of this class, instance of this class in this way. So this is the syntax, and this is one of the most common things that you're going to see when it comes to Flutter. And this is not for creating custom classes, but there are something, but the when it comes to status widgets and all, you're going to use the this particular syntax. So the syntax here is what I wanted to emphasize more. You have a keyword, you have the name of the object, followed by the name of the class for which the object is to be created. And for solving this, we are going to create a constructor. Constructors are special functions that have the same name as that of the class. So we are going to create a constructor for this. It's very similar to any other language. So this dot name, and you have to give it an initial value because there is null safety attached to it. As we can't have the fields as null, so I'm just going to give it A, B, C, and an age, anything. I'm just going to put 0. Okay, it has to be an int, so yeah, it's going to be 0. Semicolon is necessary. And to print the value of what the class says, is you can use the print statement and go ahead with the, let's try various ways in which we can use the print statement. The same the dollar symbol about which I talked about can be used in here. Use case I can tell to access the fields, we can use the dot operator in here, and as we have used the constructor and given it an initial value, so now it's going to print the name is ABC and age is 0. As we are not passing any values while creating the class. So if we want to give out a name out here, we can give the name as, okay, I'm putting out my name. If you are putting out a string, you have to give it in a string. And for the field, if for age, if I'm giving 20, and this code shall work. All right, it's going to say my name is dash and my age is dash. And if you want to give just a single value, it's going to take what's there in default constructor. The working remains the same as any other object-oriented language, but the point is the syntax is what is important when it comes to class, especially this particular part where declaring the fields, declaring the in the creating the instance, because most of the instance that you create are for the default classes. We need constructors to initialize the value of the field, and without which like if you don't pass out the value, then there has to be some default value, else the fields can't be taken as null. So can't we just put p dot name something? You can do that, but the problem is if you as it checks for the null safety, that is the none of the value should be null. If you again create somewhere else in your code and you get the value null, so that to avoid that, the Dart implements this type of syntax. You won't be using the constructor part when you're developing normal apps unless you get too deep into Flutter. So don't worry about this. These are already been declared when it in Flutter for all the classes that you will be implementing. uh, so don't worry about that. If you create a custom class, then probably you'll have to give out the constructor, and there are easy ways to do that. I'll be talking about it in the next session when it comes. So that was all for today, and yeah, over to you, Suraj. We'll provide you the code, the GitHub links for all the 4 codes that we used today very soon. Yes.
Yeah, okay. We are open for the question.
Yeah, we're open for the questions. I guess we can put out the link for the chat in here. I mean, the GitHub code. We also have with us Aryant, who is also an expert in Flutter development. You can ask your questions out to him as well. An experienced developer with us. We're open to question and answer. Aryant, if you are here, you can turn on your mic and camera if it's possible.
I can turn on my mic. I'm here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay.
Any question related to Dart, Flutter, or anything you can just ask before we wrap up today's session.
Um,
Project at the end.
this, um, for Ankur, the answer is we use underscore in Dart so as to declare the private variables and all those things. So, like you do in other languages, you can simply just create variables and you can initialize it into your constructor. Yeah, the same as Python and some more languages. I guess Ruby also uses the same concept. So you just need a underscore and then that is private. Unlike sorry, no, C++ and Java, we do not have public private as keywords here. We just do it with the help of some special symbols. Why we use Flutter or Dart over other language for development? First, the very first reason could be Flutter is, of course, cross-platform language, and you must have heard about it. So, why would anyone be doing like if I say you that give me an application, I'm your client, and I say give me a web application, give me an iOS application, give me an Android application. So for that, you need 3 different teams that would be working. One would be working on Kotlin, other would be working might be on React for web, and the third one would be working on Swift. So this all work could be, you can say, boiled down to single language, that is Flutter, that is framework that is built over Dart. And just you can play, and Dart is very flexible. I can tell you that if someone has read Android, then you can compare when you will be learning Flutter, when Sharanya will be teaching you. So you will be finding that Flutter is very flexible with UI part, and Android is not that flexible because of OEMs that they have. And so yeah, the cross-platform independence and the ease of coding, and there is no rectification like in Android. So that way, it is more efficient and more. You can say it is more readable and more you can learn it easily. That is what Flutter and Dart is.
And moreover, the rendering while development, you can have it very fast because it supports hot reload and the faster building.
Yeah.
The only disadvantage being the size of the app will be very high. I mean, very much when it comes to Flutter. That's one of the disadvantages if you are comparing it with native Android. But there are ways to reduce the size. But normally, like the build application will have, as it built for all platforms together, and that's probably the reason. So the release application, yes, you can make the size smaller.
Shubhadeep, for your question, if I learn Kotlin, will it suffice the learning of Dart? How much it is different from Kotlin? To learn Kotlin, then first thing that is Kotlin is you will find Kotlin much tougher than Dart and Flutter because in that language many things are made abstract. So if you are thinking to learn Android through Kotlin, then I have every time like people have come to me and asked for Android, I have suggested them to learn through Java first. At least you should give 1 month through Java because it is very necessary that you understand the basics of Android development rather than just going with the syntaxes and ratification that I told. So you need to go through Java into Kotlin. I shifted from Java to Kotlin and then to Flutter. So that will make it much easier because many people get confused when they get Kotlin code running up and all the complexity of the code and understanding. Though they have made it like very abstract, you won't need to that brackets and all the semicolons are very much condensed in Kotlin. So it has been made for development work only, and Java is for like coding and all those stuffs as well. So if you want to learn Kotlin, sure, go for it. But according to my like every developer has his opinion. So go for Java first, or you can go with Flutter only because it is also a very good language to learn, and it is they are both completely different. You will find them because the coding type in the way you code in Flutter and the way you code in Kotlin, they are entirely different because of XML introduced in Android part, and here you like do UI and the functionality part together. So I will suggest you to go with Java first, or if you do not want to go with Android specifically, then go with Flutter. It is the best language, I guess, according to me.
Yeah, that's right on one side. But if you're mainly focusing on Flutter, then you don't actually need prerequisite of Java knowledge or as such. Like he
Yeah.
said, when it comes for Android, if you're trying with Kotlin, it's better if you go with Java, like to know the basics. But if you're directly aiming for Flutter, you don't need either of them.
I guess there are no questions.
Yeah, you can skip all other
Can
languages
I
for
skip?
Android and do Flutter. Definitely, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you must know the
Yeah,
basics
okay.
of object-oriented programming. That's all.
Yeah,
Okay, wait.
it's booming in the industry as of now. So I will suggest also for Flutter.
Yeah, you can surely grab a good position with the help of Flutter, but you need to know where you have need to because whenever you are hired, you are not only like judged on your development parameters. You need to have a good understanding of object-oriented programming and problem-solving skills. So you can definitely go with Flutter, and you can get a very good post for Flutter developer, and very good, highly paid developers are from Flutter only. So you can definitely go for Flutter development. Which is best, AI, ML, Flutter, or Python? Jaswant Singh Kumar. It is really dependent on your interest. What do you like? If you like development, as in the applications and the website, so you can definitely go for Flutter. Or if you're more interested in data analysis part, AI and ML, all the data science and all those things, so you can go with Python. Both are good in their own ways. Just you have to find your interest. Can we use Python libraries in Flutter?
There
Can we
are
use Python?
packages like plugins that are there which are equivalent to many of the libraries, or you can create APIs out of it. That's the way. You cannot directly use Python libraries in Flutter. You have to create plugins or make an API out of it. For
For
development
development of
of
AI, what is
Okay, for your clarification, Flutter is a framework and not a language. Dart is a language. First of all, Flutter is a framework on which applications are made. And for development of AI, Dart, I mean, I would personally suggest Python over any other thing because it's easy. That's all for developing the artificial intelligence.
As I use Figma for UI UX, can I code it with Dart?
Definitely,
Yeah, you can do it with the help.
can go ahead, Aryant. No issues.
Okay. So yeah, UI UX, because it is a development language, so any development language can be used to make UI and UX. So that is not an issue. And one more thing, like in Figma, like if I talk about especially about the UI and UX developers, so they put placeholders and all those things. So Flutter is very, I would say, it is design oriented language. I would say that it enables you to think like a UI designer as well. So you won't be facing any difficulty when you are implementing the things in Flutter. You can also implement like I have seen people who are UI and UX designer, and they put placeholders when they don't know what to put there. So that functionality also Flutter offers, being uh, it is very good app, like app development language. You will, if you go deeper into it, you will surely enjoy learning it. And next from LPU, do I need to mark attendance?
Not an issue, you can fill the form because on that parameter we are going to evaluate like you have attended the session or not. Accordingly, you will be provided with the certificates. Yeah.
And also on the Figma part, I just wanted to add on that there are plugins in Figma that can directly convert your design to code. It's still mostly in beta versions, so it's still under building, and that's something that's amazing. It's happening, and there's something called Flutter Flow, that is no code platform for developing applications on Flutter, mainly for UI. That its target. So you can look up for those things if you're mainly only focusing on the UI UX part. Make that with any other, use that with any other front-end. Yes, you can use that for any
Yes.
other backend purposes. It's the same.
I think there is no question coming, right? So that's it for the day. You can join in tomorrow by the same link, but there will be change. Like you have joined with FF1, the link will be FF2. Make sure it will be activated after few minutes, right? So for now it will not work, but make sure to RSVP, and we will be starting the promotions
Before
as
we
well on social media. So stay connected there. Yeah.
And before we close, just make sure you've installed Flutter for tomorrow. Like I said yesterday, if you have not, yes, we'll be making projects starting tomorrow. If you have not installed Flutter, then do install Flutter. If you have any queries, you can put it on Discord, Slack, or Telegram. Any of our team members will resolve it.
Install the latest version of Flutter, because that will be helpful.
Yeah.
RSVP is registration. Reserve your spot. Okay. Meanwhile, you can just enjoy one video, right?
There is a question, I guess, by Rishabh. the compiler, etc., or do we need to set it up? Yeah. Vikram Sharma, we need Dart SDK as a different thing, and when you install Flutter, so they both get installed as in the same. Like Flutter and Dart are to be installed in different package if you are using VS Code, and if you are using Android Studio, then it does everything automatically, I guess.
You can check out the install link, like whichever ID you are using, whichever operating system, the detail, the full detail in the docs. So that's why I put the link. Like you can configure it accordingly. If you're still getting errors, you can ping on Discord.
It is here, Dart.
We will be wrapping the session by 8:20. Meanwhile, you can drop in if you have any questions, and that's the deadline.
I use both Android Studio and VS Code according to like. But for Flutter, go with VS Code because there are a lot many functionalities that you cannot check in Android Studio, I guess, because there are certain things that I guess Sharanya would be discussing as the session goes on. So go with VS Code, and if you really want to go with Android Studio, then it's your wish. Like
I
whichever you gel
personally
up with.
prefer Android Studio code. Well, it's totally up to you. There aren't much differences when it comes to the development environment. You have used on both, so it's just that Android Studio is a little heavy when it comes to developing. Like while you're running, probably there are chances if you're having a low-end laptop, it might hang a bit, and also your laptop might get heated up when using Android Studio. So these are some of the disadvantages. But if you have like 8 GB RAM or more than that, or then it won't be a problem at all. If you having 4 GB RAM, then I would prefer go with VS Code itself. Don't go with Android Studio. Though you would Flutter Doctor would say that Android Studio needs to be installed, but it's not compulsory, I guess. You can just install Android SDK and provide the path. That would be enough.
Shubhankar, in that case, you can go with VS Code, and you can instead of emulator as well, go with your personal device and enable Wi-Fi debugging. No, I guess Android Studio only has it. So you can enable this USB debugging in your Android device under the developer options, and you can use your device as emulator for just seeing the output what you have written as a code in Flutter.
Yeah, that will be perfect.
Rishabh, make sure that you have HAXM installed. Like Android Studio, sometimes it doesn't install Intel HAXM. So just search for it on internet, and there is a GitHub link. You can get it from there. If it is not in your case, it is not installed for your Android Studio. And rest, it could be seen tomorrow because it's already 2020, and Suraj is going to wrap up the session.
Yep. Uh, Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And let's meet tomorrow. Make sure to RSVP on the fresh link that will be activated very soon. And you can get to know about that from our social media, right? Okay, then I'm closing the session now. Bye bye.